how should people train around their period?
So there is quite a lot of debate around this. And there is some research that does suggest that training at certain times of your cycle. So, for example, and the main reason for this, like you said, is fluctuations in female sex hormones, specifically estrogen and progesterone, change the way that we metabolize protein and our recovery process from exercise. So, there is like an argument that that would have a big enough impact that maybe if we trained in different ways. And there are studies that demonstrate that anaerobic capacity and muscle strength are greatest during your follicular phase. Um, and the reason for that is that estrogen levels are higher during that time. And then there's also some studies, like basically based off that observation, that show that resistance training in your follicular phase will have superior strength outcomes in comparison to training in your luteal phase in terms of muscle strength and muscle mass. When you take that and you place it with a real woman in a real situation, there's often, and this just comes from like real life coaching experience as opposed to just doing research, there's often a lot more going on in someone's life than should I be manipulating my training based on the phase of my cycle that I'm in. It's often hard enough to get someone to train consistently, let alone periodize their training around their menstrual cycle. The other thing you have to consider is that a lot of women don't have regular cycles. A lot of women I work with are perimenopausal, so this wouldn't really be applicable to them. A lot of women are on the contraceptive pill. In fact, over half of women are on some kind of hormonal contraception. That also changes things because they don't have the same fluctuations in hormones. Technically, again, if you're on the progesterone only pill, that would impact your ability to build muscle. I say that and people freak out. And then I show them a picture of me when I used to like do a bit of fitness modeling and stuff. Like I had a lot of muscle and I was very lean. And I was on the progesterone only pill that whole period of time. So I'm like, it's not stopping you build muscle, you know? It's just that, and hey, maybe I would have been like at the Olympia had I not been on the progesterone only pill. Like, I'm joking, like literally, I really don't think it has like the impact. And this is where a lot of people stop with the questioning. They're like, "Oh my god, the pill might impact my ability to build muscle. Oh, I definitely shouldn't be taking that," or, "That must be a really bad thing," or, "That's why I haven't got results." And people don't ask, how much does it have an impact? Like, is it a noticeable impact? Are we looking at, and this is again where the science and the translation into like real world is really important to consider. So a lot of these studies will look at things like rates of muscle protein synthesis. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're building more muscle because protein synthesis is always in a state of breakdown and synthesis. Like your muscles are always breaking down and synthesizing. Just because you have higher rates of protein synthesis, which we can measure, that doesn't mean it necessarily translates to noticeably bigger muscles or more muscle mass or improvements in strength. So there are quite a lot of, often people will read research and jump to significant conclusions off the back of it. Back to the point about like how I would practically take the available research that we have and use that to program women that I coach around their menstrual cycle. I don't, because I don't think it's strong enough. And I think there's so much more that comes into the considerations of someone's training than just that. Um, Now and again, it might line up that way. I think you also have to consider that a lot of people have really bad PMS. And although they might be, I don't know, technically hormonally in the right place to be doing a 5 rep max, they don't even want to get out of bed, let alone get to the gym and be performing at that level. And equally, sometimes people are like, "Oh, I feel really good and really strong and I'm ready to train hard or I'm ready to do this." But they might technically be in the wrong stage of their cycle for that. And you can lead too much into this. It kind of comes back to what we were talking about at the start, which is these like how you think about things in self-fulfilling prophecies. I can guarantee that if I tell clients you're going to be stronger in your follicular phase and you're going to be weaker in your luteal phase, they will be.